right, aloha friends. It's game time with the Goss. Brian Gossett here with GM Sports Media, powered by Grey Wolf Promotions. And very excited for today's episode. My guest is none other than Mike Leslie. He's a sports anchor and broadcaster at WFAA. You can catch him on TV or on social media talking about high school sports here in the Metroplex, talking about Cowboys, Rangers, Mavs, Stars, and more. WFAA begins their eighth year covering Friday Night Football this week with Frisco Lone Star and Argyle. You can listen to Mike and former Dallas standout Heckma Harris on YouTube or on their streaming platform WFAA Plus, which is available on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Mike, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Brian. We've done this many times before. In the inverse with me interviewing you, it's cool to kind of flip it around today.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate the time. Excited. You're probably just as excited as me and everyone else.
You
It's
know
week
it, baby.
one of the football season. Like I said, it's year eight with you covering Friday Night Football, bringing it to Friday Night Lights, so to speak, with WFAA. I kind of want to go back to year one. Just, do you remember how this idea was presented to you? And was this an automatic no-brainer? And till to this day, is it one of the most fun things you're doing?
Yeah, honestly, it was kind of the other way around. I went to them. It was when Facebook Live and YouTube Live and these types of things started to become a thing, is when I kind of spawned the idea, and honestly, with an assist from my wife, because I had wanted to get back into play by play. And that was kind of for a long time my little secret. But at this point, even my bosses at Channel 8 know that this is the case, that this was born out of certainly a love for Texas high school football, but also just, man, I miss doing play by play. I want to get back to doing that. And I couldn't do that without starting somewhere. And this was kind of the somewhere to start. And at the beginning, I had an appreciation, I would say, for Texas high school football and maybe a burgeoning love for Texas high school football. This has rooted that deep now within me because now I've had the chance to really immerse myself in it. So that was really where it began. It was a means to an end at the beginning. It was, hey, I need to get some reps, putting a headset on and calling games again. And then very quickly it morphed into, okay, this is a ton of fun because Texas high school football is just a completely different animal than even I understood in 2018, having been here for 3 years. Now here we are, I'm a decade into working for Channel 8, and it's this has now become my favorite day of the week every week, above and beyond Cowboys games on Sunday. That's probably the close second. But this is my favorite thing that I do all year long for WFA.
That's awesome. And that kind of leads me into the next question because you've covered so many things from high school to college to pros. What it sounds like is your favorite sport to cover is football.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, basketball would probably be a close second. Those are the two sports that I played when I was, coming up through high school. Very mediocrely, by the way, just to make sure that that's on the record.
I'm in the same
Um,
boat, in the same boat. So
but I did play at least. Uh, Only a little bit with basketball. I was like the eighth or ninth man on the bench with basketball. But yeah, those are the two sports that I played growing up. So those are the sports that I certainly feel like I know the best and enjoy the most. But yeah, football's just, especially covering football in this state, as you know as well as anybody, it's a different animal. The fervor in this state for this sport is unbelievable. It's unmatched compared to anything that I've covered in any other state in my career. There's nothing else that draws the attention of the state the way that football does, and it's at all three levels. And it makes what we do feel like, hey, this matters. People really truly care about the things that we're talking about the things that we have to say about these various teams at all three levels. It's entirely different, and it makes it a lot of fun.
well, I've hopefully gave you enough time for this next question. Again, 7 years in and more before that. But can you think about what the best high school football game you've covered?
There's Yeah, that's a long list that I could go back through. I think the single best game that we have had, the most enthralling game that we have had on Friday Night Football, was the Anna Salina four overtime game from a couple of years ago. That game was off the charts crazy. And it's interesting because it came exactly 1 week after maybe the single craziest night that we have had in our history, when we were up at the Stephenville Decatur game, and they had a 3 hour lightning delay right around halftime. In fact, at halftime, they were able to get through to halftime as we're all seeing, like, hey, this thing's rolling in. You could see it in the distance. So you can see the lightning strikes, and we're going, please don't get close enough that it's like within that radius where they have to shut this thing down. And sure enough, it did. And we held on, and they held on. The two coaches held on for dear life right to the very last moment that they could have legally restarted the game. They kicked off the third quarter at 11:57 p.m. Central Time, and that game at halftime, I want to say it was like a three-score lead for Decatur, and Stephenville reeled them all the way back in. Eventually tied the game at 49, and then Decatur went down the field, scored again, led 56-49. Meanwhile, all of this is happening after midnight. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and Stephenville scores to make it 56-49. I'm sorry, Decatur scores to make it 56-49. Stephenville drives back down the other way, scores a touchdown as time expires, and I think making a decision that everybody in the building was okay with, said, we're going for two and we're going home right now. Whether we make this or miss this, we're either going to win or lose right now, and everybody's going home. And Decatur made the stop, and sorry, I'm still not sure I'm remembering this correctly. Which team? The game was so crazy, I don't remember which
Yeah,
team won
yeah.
at this point. 2 years on, insanity. And those two nights, back-to-back weeks, we all walked out of those 2 weeks like, okay, I need to sleep until like
Wow.
Tuesday, because it was madness. But that's the fun that we get on this path. It's incredible.
That's amazing that it happened, not just in the same season, but like you said, back to back weeks.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's making me want to look up real quick. Stephenville,
Yeah,
Decatur, 56-55. Um, this should take about 2 seconds to actually
let's
find
let's
once
get this
I
right.
Google it correctly. 6 hours and 12 minutes after the game began. Um, I'm sorry, it was Stephenville that won
Wow.
56-55. It was Decatur that went for two with zeros on the clock. Very last play of the game. Either we're winning or losing right here. And Stephenville's defense came up with the stop. The game was madness.
Insanity. Awesome. I'm talking with Mike Leslie with WFAA. Again, week one, Texas high school football season here upon us. And Friday night, he and Heckma Harrison will have the call. Frisco Lone Star and Argyle, two top 10
Yeah.
teams in the state. I know you've done like you've done many times. You do great research and you're in the process of it. Just talk about the matchup and some of the things you're looking forward to from both teams.
Yeah, we did our phone calls this morning with Coach Rogers and Coach Rayburn, and really dug in on some of the key players and key storylines of the game, and so we are off and running with our preparation for Friday night. I mean, it should be a terrific game. It's not often in Texas high school football, and again, you know this as well as anybody. Most games are not coin flip games. Most games you walk in with a baked in expectation of, even in some of the biggest games, even in some of the state championship games, we all walk in knowing, okay, X team is probably 2 to 3 touchdowns better than Y team. It's not often that you look at it and go, I don't know which way this one's going
Yeah,
to go.
yeah.
This one kind of feels that way. Lone Star's the bigger school, obviously, from 5AD1, but not by any drastic margin over Argyle from 5AD2. And these are two programs that are very used to making very deep runs in the playoffs. Obviously, Argyle state semis the last couple of years, and they're just bumping up against that South Oak Cliff ceiling, which is a tough ceiling to bump into because they've obviously been magnificent the last several years. But you could make an argument this Argyle team is as good as they've had in this stretch, with McGuire Gasperson, their quarterback, now a senior. Julian Caldwell, their stud receiver, is outstanding. and they've made some changes in terms of who's going to be where. Nathaniel Bruce, who's a name that you probably remember if you have paid any attention at all to Argyle over the course of the years. I'm talking not, I know you know, I'm saying to people in your audience, if you've paid any attention to Argyle over the last several years, you know the name Nathaniel Bruce because he was a game breaker for them on the back end of their defense, as well as in the punt and kick return game. They're going to move him to running back this year, which they dabbled with a little bit last year, but they're kind of full on making that move now this year. He's going to be very fascinating to watch behind that massive offensive line that Argyle has. So that's an interesting wrinkle for Todd Rogers' team this year. And then for Lone Star, you could make the argument this is the most talented team that Jeff Rayburn has had. And that's a hard argument to make because they've had some really, really good teams through the years, especially going back to the Marvin Mims era, going back to obviously the Ashton Ginty era. Um, this is a really, really good football team and a deep football team with a whole mess of difference makers and athletes. And the story that is to me the coolest about Frisco Lone Star is the Carice Hoyt story. He was their starting quarterback last year. He was a captain as a sophomore last year. You'd think that dude's going to start a quarterback for 3 seasons. When you
Yeah.
have the success that he did as a sophomore, when they had the success that they did as a team last year, captain as a sophomore, well, of course, they're going to run that back. And Jeff Rayburn said he even told Carice as much like, hey, if you want it, that's your job. You've earned the right. You're our guy. And he said Hoyt very unselfishly recognized the reality of one, his own skill set, but also the fact that they've got two young guys coming up through and Trey Wright, a sophomore, who's got a very high ceiling, according to Jeff Rayburn, as well as John Madden, a junior that's got a lot of talent. They've got a couple of quarterbacks that can really spin it. And as good as Carice Hoyt is as an athlete and as a football player, that wasn't his gift. Throwing the football down the field is not really his gift. He's just a really, really good football player that can be an athlete and make plays. And that's how they did things last year. But I think he saw, and for a high school junior to see this and understand this and accept this is a big statement about who this young man is. He said, okay, we can be a better football team if I do X, Y, Z, and whatever, and let these guys throw the football down the field. So he's going to play running back. He's going to play wide receiver. He's going to play safety. He's going to be their punt returner. He's going to be all over the field. He's absolutely going to make a huge impact. He was the district MVP, unanimous district MVP last year as a sophomore. He's a fantastic football player and clearly a pretty sharp kid, too, to see the forest for the trees and say, you know what? Let me do this, and that's going to make our football team better. That's a really big thing for a junior to do, and I'm excited to see what this season is like for him.
Yeah, maybe the next Travis Hunter of
Yeah, there,
yeah,
there you
right.
go.
Just get you out on this, but your schedule again for Friday Night Football, WFAA. You always every year you guys try to showcase some of the best teams, state title contenders. I mean, this year you got Duncanville, DeSoto, Sox, Salina, Gunner, Alito, Orion. The whole spiel. If you can take one or two games or teams, who are you most looking forward to down the road?
Yeah, let me listen. The first 2 weeks of October are certainly going to be where the attention is drawn and where the eyeballs are. Alito, Denton, Ryan on October 3rd, Duncanville, DeSoto on October 10th. They were last year our two biggest games. They are this year, and you know how it is with the 2 year rotation. A lot of these schedules look the same, and it kind of leads to each 2 years. Our schedule sometimes looks very similar. They are the two biggest games, I think, in the area at their respective levels, 6A and 5A this season. Duncanville DeSoto is interesting this year because it's not the slam dunk. Both of them are on their way to a championship that maybe it's been the last couple of years. And I guess we thought anyway when they met in October that was still the case. Obviously, we were proven wrong on that by Longview and by North Crowley. But this year, they're both, I mean, it's Duncanville and DeSoto. They're both going to be really, really good because they always are. And they've got this bevy of athletes and they're extremely well coached. So they're always going to be good, but they both have question marks. What's the situation going to be at quarterback? What's the situation going to be in terms of Duncanville having to replace DeCorian Moore at the wide receiver spot? And again, they've got a ton of athletes coming up through that are going to be able to fill those voids. Asen Theus is a fantastic talent. Like they've got dudes still. Don't get me wrong, but when you had 5-star to 5-star, when you're going Keelan Russell to DeCorian Moore all day, every day, like nobody can stop that. Now it's a little bit more of, okay, what is this going to look like? And maybe by the time we get to October 10th, we'll already know the answer for both teams. But that game is always the litmus test for each other. Where are we right now? Where do we stand? And how realistic are our every year goals of winning a state championship? And then with Alito Denton Ryan, buddy, the game we got last year with Alito Denton Ryan at Alito, Denton Ryan jumping all over him, up 27-8 in that football game. And for Alito to reel them back in, keep this mystifying run going with their district win streak was unbelievable. But then Ryan ends up getting them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Both teams should come into that game feeling like they want revenge.
Yeah.
So as great as Duncanville DeSoto has been, and we've been honored to do that game. This will be now the 5th straight year that we've done that game, and that has always been our tentpole. That has been our tentpole game since we first did it. I'm not sure if Alito Denton Ryan isn't the better and more. I don't know if interesting is the right word, but it's number 1 and number 3 in the state, and with the history from last year, there is so much at stake in that game, and that feels like the most perilous moment that Alito has had in a district game, at least in terms of as you look at it going in, as they've maybe ever had on the road against a Denton Ryan team that beat you 10 months ago. It's fascinating. So those two for sure, but I'm also super interested to see Euless Trinity South Lake Carroll. I think that game's going to be a ton of fun. Back end of the schedule, West Mesquite, a team that we've never spotlighted before, but went 11-1 last year. Really excited to see what they look like this year against Carrollton Creekview. That's an interesting game. Two teams that we've never featured before on this broadcast. There's a lot to look forward to. And then the one other thing I would leave you with that I think will just be a really cool, frankly sentimental thing. Heckma Harrison, our color analyst, this is year 4 for him on our broadcast. It has been a thrill to work with this dude over the course of these last several years and really get to become very good friends with Heckma in addition to really enjoy working with him. His son is a senior at Saxe, plays wide receiver, really good football player, looking at going to play in college himself. And the last couple of years, Saxe had Kalik Lockett as their stud wide receiver, the
Right.
kid who's now down at UT. And he was a little bit in line, obviously, when Kalik Lockett's in front of you, you got a 5-star in front of you, that bumps you down the depth chart just a little bit. This year as a senior, Heckma Jr., Lil Heck as we call him, is going to have an opportunity to be one of their 2 starting receivers on the outside. And we're going to be able to get to go do Naaman Forest at Saxe, second to last week of the regular season, on what will be Lil Heck's senior night. So to have his dad there to call his senior night game, as excited as I am for everything else from a straight football perspective and seeing these teams battle it out in some of the best matchups in the state, certainly some of the best matchups in DFW, that night might be my favorite night on the whole schedule, just to see that moment and have the opportunity, because Heckma will be able to go to some of his games, some of his Thursday night games, but he won't be able to be at all of them. But I was like, all right, we got to figure out a way to get him. We did it last year. Let's figure out a way to get him at a game, calling a game that his son is playing in. And when it worked out that it was going to be senior night, I about fell off my chair like, holy smokes, this is awesome that this is going to be the way that we can work this out. So I'm super, super pumped for that night. That's October 31st, Halloween, Saxe hosting Naaman Forest. That one will be really cool.
That's awesome, and we look forward to it. Well, Mike, since you've done so much for me over at the old high school sports special.
Buddy, that's not me. That's all Paul
Yeah,
Melton. You know
Paul Melton, shout out to him
that.
too, Joe Trahan. But I like to give you the red carpet now, just talk about some of the other things you may be working on, as well as where can we find you on social media.
Yeah, honestly, buddy, it's either this, like my entire fall is this, and then college football and the Cowboys. We'll do a whole bunch of college football coverage on Saturday. We do the college football wrap up Saturday nights at 10:15 or 10:30 or whenever the game that precedes this finally wraps up and ends, and then it's all things Cowboys the rest of the week. So yeah, my Facebook page, Mike Leslie, WFA, Twitter, Mike Leslie WFA. Those are probably the best places to find me. I'm probably more on my Facebook page than anywhere else at this point. But yeah, all things football, man. Rick Carlisle used to always give us a hard time because we'd roll into Mavs practice on January 9th or whatever. He'd be like, "Oh, nice to see you. We've only had a season going for like 3 months, and buddy, it's Texas, it's Dallas.
Yeah.
Welcome to town."
Awesome. Well, we appreciate always, Mike. Always great to talk to you, and just want to wish you the best of luck going forward, and have an
Likewise,
awesome
man.
time on this broadcasting schedule.
We'll do. We'll do. Absolutely. I'll see you out there in the path for sure.
All right, that's Mike Leslie with WFAA. Again, Friday Night Football with Mike and Heckma Harrison. You can watch him on YouTube or live streaming apps, and it'll be an exciting time. He's got Lone Star and Argyle this week on Friday night, so tune in. And that'll be another episode for us. Game Time with the Goss, powered by Grey Wolf Promotions. I'm Brian Gossett with GM Sports Media. Have fun out there. The Texas high school football season is here, baby. We look forward to catching you on another episode. And until next time, take care.